Yo, it's Arcade and today I'm gonna show you how to make French house, not to be confused with French toast. Basically, we are gonna find some music from the 60s, sample it and turn it into a proper house banger. So keep watching and you will learn how to sample tracks legally so you can actually release them, how to make amazing drum grooves, funky bass lines and way more. Also, this video is brought to you by Tracklib, more on that later. So now let's get started with the track. So before considering the sample that we are going to use, I wanna make the drum groove first. I set the BPM to 126, turn on the swing knob so everything is more groovy and offbeat, and let's get started on the drums. So we're gonna start with a basic kick, sounds like this. Very dusty and old school. I like that. Right click on it, fill each 4 steps, and that's our kick. Then some claps, I'm using this one and this one. And we are just gonna put them every second beat. That's how most of the house tracks start. Then some open hi-hat, it's gonna be this one. It's pretty short, but we are gonna use it right here. And also some filler hi-hat, which is going to play before the first open hi-hat and before the third open hi-hat. And here you can see the importance of sample selection. We have a pretty basic rhythm here, but the samples made it sound good right off the bat. So that is our basic drum beat for the track, but we are going to make it way more rich and full. For now, let's put it to the playlist. And I actually want to add another open hi-hat on top of it. So it will be this open hi-hat, the 909 open hi-hat, which you can find in FL Studio. Just search for 909 and you can find all the 909 samples. And the hi-hat sounds like this. It's like the most standard open hi-hat there is, but it just works. One thing I want to do is go to envelope, enable the envelope, lower everything except the sustain, which is all the way up, and a little bit of the release. So now if we hold the note, it will play through, but if we just click it, it will be very short. That's because of the envelope, and that will add some variety to the whole drum loop, make it sound more realistic. So here is the rhythm that I created. We have a short one, a long one, a short one, and a long one, and that's how it repeats, and it sounds like this. So differentiating between longer and shorter notes for the open hi-hat adds a lot to the whole groove. Now the drums sound like this. But I'm still not satisfied. If we want this house beat to sound old school, we need more shakers and hi-hats and stuff like that. That's where loops come into place. You could do this manually, but I like to use loops for this type of thing, where you combine many loops together to create one unique loop out of it. So the loops I'm using are from FL Cloud, and I just went through a bunch of them and chose my favorites. So here's one of them. Another open hi-hat with a clap and shakers. Here's some bongos. And here's some more bongos. And with the hi-hats, it sounds like this. Yeah, already feeling that groovy rhythm, which is a must for a house track like this. But yeah, our beat is sounding like this so far. So yeah, the main thing of our house track is ready, which is the groovy beat. If this is not done correctly, then you need to go back and fix that. So since the beat is ready, we can go and start looking for a sample for this track. So where do you find samples that you can use in your music production and actually release those tracks? You find them on Tracklib. Tracklib is a platform where you will find thousands of old and new tracks to sample. It's used by some big names like Drake, Kanye West, and many more, and you can use it too. And now with their premium subscription plan, you will have unlimited sample clearance, which means you don't have to pay the sample clearance fees. If you want to check it out and start sampling yourself, check out the link in the description below. If you use my link, you will get a free trial and 15 credits, so you can sample 15 tracks for free. Now let's find a sample for our track, and what I like to do is go to tracks, choose track types, and I want to do songs with multi-tracks. That means the whole song will already be split into different tracks like drums, vocals, brass, and other instruments, which will make it a lot easier to work with when sampling, and you can just go ahead and preview them. And let's do release year, something from the 60s. And the track that I ended up using is this one by Oscar Irving. If it ain't one thing, it's another. So I really like the brass instruments in here and the vocal as well. So that's the track that I'm gonna go with. And as you can see, we got the multi-tracks. So we have the vocals by themselves.
one thing.
And the horns and other instruments by itself as well. We got the BPM and the key, so you can just download these tracks and we can start sampling them in FL Studio. So that is Tracklib. As I said, check out the link in the description below to get a free trial and 15 free credits. Now let's get back to FL Studio. So here is our sample, which has all the instruments without drums and vocals. And there is many ways you can flip this sample. Today I'm going to show you my favorite way, which is by using a slicer. So add a plugin to FL Studio called Fruity Slicer. If you don't have it here, just go to more plugins, type it in and favorite it. That way you will see it. So I'm gonna add it in, and what we're gonna do is double click our sample and just drag it into Fruity Slicer. Now as you can see, it didn't cut it, so we just have the one slice of the whole song. So what you wanna do is go here and choose auto slicing. I'm gonna go with medium auto slicing. And now we have all these slices, which is individual parts of the sample that we can play on a piano. Another thing that you want to turn on is play to end. So if you press the key, the sample can continuously play while you hold the key. And also go to envelope, enable the envelope, lower everything except the sustain and a little bit of the release. Now you can play it on your keyboard and activate each slice separately. And as long as you hold the note, it will play. And once you let go of it, it will stop. So now we have all these slices. Let's just remove them because there's too many of those. And now you have to sort of start creating the melody. And basically you can just play around with it. It takes some trial and error, but here is the sampled melody that I ended up with. It sounds like this. So yeah, I just played around with the slices until I found something that I liked, and we're gonna improve this a lot more. One thing that you can definitely do is once you have this note, you can hear that this one sounds different even though it's the same slice. And you do that by putting the note in and double clicking it, and then you can actually pitch it up or down. In the top left corner you can see how much I'm pitching it up or down. So we're gonna do -700, and you can preview it with the spacebar. So that's a great feature that you can definitely utilize in this case. So instead of just finding another slice that will fit, you can actually edit a specific slice to have a different pitch. So that's why I went from here to here. So yeah, once we created this sliced melody, we can actually put some effects on it to make it more interesting. Because right now it sounds like this in the whole song, which is not that great, so let's put some effects on it. I started with the Kickstart plugin, which means it will be sidechained. This is like the signature of French house, so definitely sidechain your sounds, either with Kickstart or Gross Beat. So that will be going to Gross Beat, going to Repeater, and choosing the sidechain A or B preset, which will have the same result, but I prefer Kickstart. Then I put Sound Goodizer on it to make it bigger and more powerful. Then I put the gross beat on it, which is actually really important, and I chose the gate preset right here, and I adjusted it a little bit. You can hold the Alt key while adjusting the points so they stick to the grid, and you can create your own rhythm. So when it's up, it will be playing. When it's down, it will be quiet. So I created this rhythm, and it sounds like this. So right off the bat, that's a bit more groovy and rhythmic. Then I added some reverb on it to make it more open, some EQ to boost the high frequencies, some more EQ, just playing around with the frequencies, seeing what works and what doesn't. And then we have this EQ, which is a low pass filter right here, and we're gonna automate this to sort of open it up later in the song. So once that's done, it sounds like this in the whole song. So the groove is definitely coming together, but this means nothing without the bass. So the bass is probably the most important thing that will sort of glue all of this together. So let me show you how to make the bass. So for the bass, I'm using my favorite realistic bass plugin, Rickenbacker Bass, and it sounds like this. And here is the melody that I created for the bass. When you don't know where to start with the melody for the bass, you can actually go back to the original sample and take a look at what bass they used in the track. So here's the full track, and let's hear the bass. So yeah, you can hear the two main notes. The first one is like do, and the second one is do. So remember these two notes. So if you can do it by ear, just detect these two notes and put them in the piano roll. So the bass melody that I ended up using is consisting of G and then C and then back to G. And here's the melody. So since it's French house, you want this bass line to be a bit more funky, a bit more groovy. That's why I decided to use some offbeat notes and sort of create this melody going up and down. Almost like creating these slide notes with the bass. So this bass sounds great by itself, but I actually added some more layers to it, one of which is Nexus, and I'm not even sure if you can hear this, but these are pretty much like the bass percussions, like moving on the string and stuff like that, so it sounds like this. Very quiet, but it sort of adds to the realism of the bass. And then I used this bass, which is this cool funky bass, and I removed all the low frequencies from it, so it sort of acts like a top layer for the bass. So even people who are listening to this on their phone can hear a little bit of the bass, so this adds to the higher frequencies on the bass. So all together it sounds like this. And in the song it sounds like this. So yeah, with the bass, it's all coming together nicely. But I also wanted to use the vocal in the track, so let me show you how I did that. So here's the vocal, and even though we know the BPM of this track, usually the old tracks are not 100% accurate when it comes to BPM. So even when you synchronize it with your song, it will slowly start swaying away and get out of sync. That's why you have to adjust the vocal to fit to your BPM and your track. So the way I did that, I just used the slice tool, cut it up when needed, and aligned it with the grid so the vocals sort of hit at the right spot. You can also use the metronome and see if it fits with the BPM.
If it ain't one thing, it's another.
And when it doesn't, just move it around holding the Alt key if you want to be precise, and adjust it until it fits right on the beat. So for this vocal, I actually don't want this deep voice, I wanted this high-pitched voice because that's something that I like in other tracks that sample vocals. So the way that I did that is I double-click it, make sure the mode is set to Stretch Pro, and then you can pitch it up by an octave, which is fully to the right. Then it sounds like this. And you can actually adjust the format as well. If you want a deeper voice, you can go to the left. This way you will get the deeper voice, but it will still stay in the same key. But I actually want a higher pitched voice, so I'm gonna go up by 400. You can see that in the top left corner, and it sounds like this.
If it ain't one thing, it's another.
So it sounds decent, a bit more unrealistic, but that doesn't matter. Now let's put some effects on it to make it sound even better in the whole song. So once again, I'm putting Kickstarter plugin on it, so the whole vocal will be pumping to the kick. As you can hear, some reverb to make the vocal more spacious, and then some EQ. I removed the low frequencies and some of the high frequencies, so the vocal is not like in your face, but it's more in the background and sounds a bit more like an old recording. So in the whole drop, it sounds like this. So a lot is going on in this drop, but it's very groovy and that's what we want. So that's our first drop ready to go, but we also want to make some variations in the second drop. So moving on to the second drop, I made some variations. First, I slice up the melody in a different way. So before it was like this, and in the second drop it will be like this. Just a whole different rhythm. So a little switch up to keep the song fresh, and I also added these guitars. So for the sound I'm using this Bang Bang guitar from Nexus, and also this guitar from Nexus, which I added guitar rig to with the wah wah preset, so it's sort of wobbly, and the guitar sounds like this. So yeah, it just makes it more fresh, and as you can see, I'm using the same notes as the bass, G and C, and created this little rhythm with some rolls as well, right here. So you can just put those notes in, hold the Alt key to move them around, and create a little roll. So that's the guitar, and it sounds like this in the whole drop. As you can see, I deleted the vocal and some of the hi-hats to create more space for the guitar, because you don't want to like overwhelm the song with too many sounds at once. That's why in the first one we have the vocal and in the second one we have the guitar instead. Other things you can do to make this drop a bit more interesting is add some fills. So at the end of every repetition we have the drum beat with the kick removed, so it sounds like this. Just remove the kick to create some variation. And I also added these 909 snares, which is a snare that is used in a lot of the classic house tracks. You can find it in FL Studio. Just go to your browser, type in 909, and you will see all these samples. It's a great one, so I created this little fill with it. Nothing fancy. And then some crashes. And then I also played with the drums, adding another kick at the end. So every 4 repetitions, add some fill in to make it more interesting. I even added this one, which is just adding more kicks in, and you can go to Graph Editor, lower the velocity of some of these filler kicks so it sounds more natural. So yeah, we have the first and the second drop, and then we play the drop the third time, this time without using the sampled melody. So we have the vocal with the bass and the drums. Again, those drum fills really add to the whole groove. I also added this cowbell. Just playing around with different loops to keep the track fresh. So our drop is ready. Now let's move on to the build-up, which is also important because the build-up sets the mood and makes the drop hit even harder. So I have a pretty basic build-up here. I started with some loops once again. Introducing the rhythm to the whole track. I also started introducing the vocals. Then some 909 snare build-up fill, where I also automated the pitch. You can just go into the snare, right click on the pitch, automate it so it goes from low pitch to high pitch, which is this automation right here. That just creates a bit more intensity. I also play out part of the song, which slowly fades away. And cut in this guitar or organ, sort of offbeat. And we start introducing the melody as well. By using the EQ as a filter, as I showed you before, just do a low pass filter in parametric EQ and then automate this parameter right here so it sort of opens up. Then at the very end of the build-up we have some empty space, which I filled with the vocal. And then we hit it with a kick, clap and a hi-hat right before the drop, and of course some crashes as well. So that's how we connect the build-up to the drop, and it sounds like this. So yeah, sounds amazing already, but one more thing that I like to do when it comes to these sampled tracks is I like to introduce the original sample in the intro of the track. So I took the whole intro of the track right here and put it in the very beginning of the track, and I used my very own plugin NeonGlow on it, so it sort of slowly washes away as it progresses and then connects to the build-up. So I automated the wash, the build-up, and it sounds like this.
If it ain't one thing, it's another.
Slowly washes away, and then the build-up. So yeah, that's my intro, my build-up, and the drop, so the track is ready to go. Don't forget to check out Tracklib. Without them this video would not be possible. Use the link below to get a free trial and 15 credits so you can start sampling as well. Now let's check out the finished result. Enjoy!
If it ain't one thing, it's another.